Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf for IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Matrix Labs, the video number 47. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have finished the testum report findings concerning our primary domain controller. We have seen all of the findings concerning the forest findings, concerning the domains findings, and then concerning each domain controller in our domain. We have seen the findings in the primary domain controller, and actually the findings in the additional domain controller are the same findings that was found in the primary domain controller, so we will not discuss this or discuss the findings in the additional domain controller. We have finished the test report completely. It's a very good test. I encourage you all to see it because it contains a lot of useful tests that can give you a vision about your Active Directory health and security in a partial way, not in a full in a full way. Okay, there is some tools that are specially designed to search or find the security issues in the Active Directory. Even though the testimony report have some of their tests focusing on the security, but it's not specialized in the security issues concerning the Active Directory. So today we will discuss two free tools that can get the security issues concerning your Active Directory, and they are specialized in this field. Okay, so one of them today, or we will focus about one utility which is called Purple Knight, which is a tool recommended by one of my friends in LinkedIn, which is a very simple tool, very organized tool. The output is very catchy, you can see, and very simple and very easy to understand. We will see the Purple Knight and we will discuss this tool, which is a very famous tool. And there is another tool which is called Ping Castle. We will discuss it later after discussing the Purple Knight. The Ping Castle is the same as Purple Knight, but it contains maybe some detailed reports or findings, but it's not as organized, or the output is not as organized or not catchy as Purple Knight. So we will discuss the two, and these are two free tools that will focus or will point you or will redirect you to any issues or security issues concerning your Active Directory database. Very simple. If we need to download the utility, we can go to Purple Knight or search something called Purple Knight, and then we can see download, and then we can go to the website, and then we can go and download it, but you need to provide your business email so you can download the utility, which is very simple utility actually, and all of the tests you can run them individually because they provide the scripts. So every test you can see a PowerShell script that will run this report, or that will display the output of this test. So you can take the PowerShell script and run the test individually if you don't need to run the whole report. We will see now how this is done. So that now you can download this report, okay, or this utility, and simply we will see the output of this utility. This is for the Purple Knight. As for Ping Castle, we will see, and actually the two are very famous, and they are giving very good results. Okay, but we will see maybe that Purple Knight is a little bit having more organized output, or a catchy, from my point of view, a catchy output. Okay, that for Ping Castle, we can see, we can tell it free download, and then we can download the utility, and we will see later how we can use this utility. Okay, so after downloading the Purple Knight, we will see that it is already zipped, so you can open. Here you go, this is the folder, and you can see you have the Purple Night. After extracting the folder, we will see here is uh, the utility. We can see this is the exe file, and we see two PDFs how to use the utility. I am working with the getting started PDF. It's very simple and is discuss how you can install the Purple Night utility. And I have already run the utility, and I have the output. So we can see here this is the output on 14th of August. Okay, we can see here is the output. It is in different formats. You can see it is in HTML, it's in PDF, and it's in CSV file. So we can see these are all the tests. We can see here that all of them are each test is displayed in one CSV file. As we can see here, most of these are in CSV file, and we can see the HTML file and the PDF file. As for the HTML file, this one we will go through it one by one. So we will discuss all of the results uh, found by this report. You can change the icon of this report by putting your logo in a certain folder. We will discuss this now, but this is simply how you can download the utility, and then we will see how we can install the utility. There is a couple of things I have faced when I was installing the utility. Simple things actually, maybe the resolution of or the resolution of the utility itself, it need to be run in a certain resolution. If it's not run in that resolution, maybe you will find some difficulties to click on some buttons concerning the program. I will show you all what I mean by that. So let's go and see how the utility is installed. Now I have my two domain controllers, my primary domain controller and my secondary domain controller. We will power them on, or power them on. So now, as we can see, this is the primary domain controller, and then we have the secondary domain controller. And now we can log in. I will install the utility on the primary domain controller, so I will log in with my domain admin account. So now we can go to the PDF. This is the getting started PDF. We can see here, if we go further, we can see that there is a couple of things concerning the requirements, system requirements. You should run it on a domain joined computer. So my primary domain controller is already joined the domain. So this is very simple. You don't need it. This is one logical step. Okay, now we can see the operating system. It is supported to Windows Server 2019, and actually I'm working on the preview version of Windows Server Data Center 2025, and it's working perfectly. The Windows Server 2025 data center, we have the NetFrame 6 or 4.62 is already installed, and we have PowerShell 5 already installed. So actually I didn't install anything. All of the requirements are found on the Windows Server Data Center 2025 Preview Edition, and I think all of the requirements will be available on the different Windows Server operating system. I think until Windows Server 2016. Maybe if you are working with an older version, which is 2012 R2, which is now expired or not supported, so I think maybe you will not find PowerShell version 5. I think actually you need to install it. Anyway, so we will work with the latest version. It is supported on the latest version of Windows Server Data Center 2025, even though it's in a preview edition, but it's working perfectly without any issues. So we can go further with the requirements. And one thing here, you need to make sure that you have your firewall allowing or bypassing these ports, because a test will do a couple of scanning to your domain. So you need to have the ports open through your Windows firewall on your primary domain controller or on the machine that you will run the utility on. So you need to have TCP port 389, which is used to discover the domain. You need to have it opened on your primary domain controller. And the port 445, I think this is used for here is saying RPC, remote procedure call, which is a way to communicate with servers. It can also be used with replication, okay, of Active Directory, but it is used here, is using it for calling the servers. And here he is using this port to do a test concerning a vulnerability called zero login and printer spooler. So he also used scan that attempt by scans that attempt RPC calls such as zero login and print spooler. So you should have this port open because it will test for a vulnerability called zero login and printer spooler vulnerability. This port should be opened, okay? And we have port 443 if you are using Active Directory web services. I think we don't use it. I don't use it in my domain. And actually I don't have AD certificate authority, so I don't have any certificate authority, or I think here he's talking about the certificate authority in general. This is certificate authority web enrollment, so this is not the Active Directory web services. This is the Active Directory certificate services. One of them is the web service and the certificate authority service, even though I don't have these two in my domain. Anyway, I have already the Windows firewall disabled on my primary domain controller, and this is only temporary until the test is run, and then we can open it back or return it back. So you can do this, or you can do firewall rules on your Windows firewall to allow these ports, okay? And we can see that the supported browsers are Google Chrome and Edge, and actually I'm using Edge because now it is working on the platform of Google Chrome. It's using Chromium as its base start, okay? So you can use Microsoft Edge because this is compatible with Microsoft operating system. Then we go to the main point that has or I have some problems concerning this point. Here I have my resolution on my domain controller less than or it's more than 1024 by 768 pixel. This has made the program I didn't able to display it completely. So I need to decrease my resolution to be the same as the requirement. So if I make the resolution more than this, some of the icons I didn't able to click on it because it was disappeared. I will show you all what I mean by that, okay? And then the logo size, if you need to change the logo of the report, the one that I have showed you all before. So for example, here is the report. If you go there, let me open the report for my findings. Okay, here you go, this is the one, and then we can open this one, final, and then we can open this is the purple night, and then we have this one, and then I have the output, and then we have this one, and then we can run this one, okay? If you need to change the logo, okay, of the report, you can basically do that. You can go to the folder that contains the report, and then go to the custom folder and then put the logo .png, so it will be displayed in your report. Let's see, I think I have, here is the folder of the report. Let's see where he is talking about. I think here is configuration. No, not this one. I think scripts. I think it will configure something in the C partition, okay? So this is the extracted folder, but if you install the exe file, I think it will put some folders in the C partition, so you can go and check them. And if you want to change the logo, you can go to the folder and the custom and then put your logo in it, okay? And then let's continue with the PDF. Here we need to say something here. This utility will scan for not only the findings or the security findings concerning the Active Directory in an on-premise setup, okay, but you can use this utility to scan for Azure security findings on the cloud, and you can also see some findings concerning Okta domain. Okay, actually I didn't know what is an Okta domain because I didn't use it before, but it is a kind of identity management solution or privilege access management solution, which is one thing I didn't deal with before. But we will see a small description concerning what is an Okta domain and it is used for. But first, you can use this utility to scan for different vulnerabilities or different platforms: a cloud platform, an on-premise platform, something like a custom domain, for example, like an Okta domain. This is, as I said, it is an identity management solution. Okay, so each one of these has a certain setup. So as for the Active Directory setup, it's simply on-premise setup. You can just double click on the exe file and you will set up the report, and you will see it's very, very simple. As for Azure, you need to do a couple of steps or additional steps. It is already stated in the PDF. And as for the Okta, the same. So I will focus on the Active Directory setup in an on-premise setup, and we will see it is very, very simple. We don't need to do anything. Actually, what I have done, just only installed the exe file and then choose some steps to identify which forest I need to scan, which domain I need to scan, which domain controllers I need to scan, and what are the tests I need to run, if I need to run all of the tests or some of the tests. So as we can see here, the PDF is very, very simple to read. As we can see here, this is the one thing I was talking about. What is an Okta domain? This is one thing I didn't know, because actually I didn't work with this kind of solutions before. So very, very simple. I have gone to the AI tools, something, for example, like Perplexity, and I asked it, what is an Okta domain? So let's read the answer. What is an Okta domain? And we will see also the answer of Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and then we can continue with the setup, because actually this is a new kind of solutions I didn't encounter before. So let's see the answer.
An Okta domain refers to the unique web address associated with an Okta organization, which is a cloud-based identity and access management service. Each Okta organization is assigned a specific domain that typically follows the format example.okta.com or example.oktapreview.com, where example is the name of the organization or tenant. This domain is used for accessing the Okta admin console, user authentication, and other services provided by Okta. Structure of an Okta domain. Subdomain. The part before .okta.com, which is usually the name of the organization, e.g., company name. Top-level domain. TLD. This indicates the type of domain, such as .com, .eu, or .oktapreview.com for preview environments. Full example. A typical Okta domain might look like company name.okta.com for production or company name.oktapreview.com for a testing environment. Real-world examples of Okta domains. Production domain. Example.okta.com. This is a standard domain for organizations using Okta in a production environment. Preview domain. Example.oktapreview.com. This domain is used for organizations that are testing new features before they are released in the production environment. Regional domain. Example.okta-emea.com. This domain is used for organizations that operate in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa (EMEA) region, ensuring compliance with regional data regulations. Custom domain. Organizations can customize their Okta domain to a branded URL, such as login.example.com, which can be set up using name records and DNS settings. This allows for a more seamless user experience, as users will not see the default Okta domain when logging in. Summary. An Okta domain is essential for managing user identities and access within an organization using Okta services. It provides a unique identifier for the organization within the Okta ecosystem and can be customized to enhance branding and user experience.
So this is the Okta, but what are the applications that are supported by Okta? We can see this, or we will see how we can use the Okta. So the Okta is a cloud service that is used to authenticate users and let them access multiple applications by one username and password. Okay, this is the basic idea of Okta. Okay, and we will see that it supports a lot of applications, like for example Microsoft 365 and a lot of cloud-based solutions and local setup solutions. Let's see what are the supported applications used by Okta or supported by Okta or integrated with Okta. Okay, let's see here. If we go, sorry, I need to uh, just let it read loudly. So we can go further. Now we can go like that, and okay, and then read out loud.
Okta is widely used across various industries to manage identity and access for a multitude of applications. The types of applications that typically integrate with Okta include cloud-based services, on-premises applications, mobile apps, and custom-built applications. Below are some categories of applications that use Okta, along with real-world examples. Types of applications using Okta. 1. Cloud-based applications. Examples. Microsoft 365 provides productivity tools and services. Salesforce, a leading customer relationship management (CRM) platform. Google Workspace, a suite of cloud computing, productivity, and collaboration tools. 2. Collaboration and communication tools. Examples. Zoom, a video conferencing and online meeting platform. Slack, a messaging app for teams that facilitates collaboration. Atlassian Product Suite includes tools like Jira and Confluence for project management and documentation. 3. Human Resource Management Systems. Examples. Workday, a cloud-based application for human capital management and financial management. Bamboo HR, an online HR software for small and medium-sized businesses. 4. File storage and sharing services. Examples. Box, a cloud content management and file sharing service. Dropbox, a file hosting service that offers cloud storage, file synchronization, and personal cloud. 5. E-commerce platforms. Examples. Shopify, an e-commerce platform for online stores and retail point-of-sale systems. Magento, an open-source e-commerce platform written in PHP. 6. Custom applications. Organizations often build custom applications that integrate with Okta for user authentication and authorization. These can be tailored to specific business needs. 7. Security and compliance tools. Examples. Duo Security provides two-factor authentication and security solutions. Okta Access Gateway for securing access to on-premises applications. 8. Development and API management. Examples. Postman, a collaboration platform for API development. Twilio, a cloud communications platform for building SMS, voice, and summary. Okta's extensive integration capabilities allow organizations to connect a wide range of applications, enhancing security and streamlining user access. The platform supports over 6,500 pre-built integrations, making it a versatile choice for businesses looking to manage identities across various applications efficiently. Share. Rewrite.
So this is the answer of Perplexity. As we can see, it's a very, very good AI tool to search topics, and it gives you the images and the videos related to the topic that you are searching for, and it summarizes the findings of the topic that you are searching for from the URLs it searched from. So for example, you have 6 URLs talking about the subject. He gets all of them and summarizes them in one output. Okay, so this is the Perplexity answer. As for Claude, it's one simple answer actually, and the real world example clarifies or can give you a vision about how the Okta is working. Let's see the answer of Claude concerning what is an Okta.
Would you like me to elaborate on any specific aspect of Okta domains? An Okta domain is a unique URL associated with an organization's Okta account. Okta is a popular identity and access management (IAM) platform that provides single sign-on (SSO) and multi-factor authentication (MFA) services for businesses. The Okta domain typically follows this format: https://company name oktia.com, where company name is replaced by the organization's chosen subdomain. This domain serves several important purposes. User login. Employees use this URL to access their organization's Okta sign-in page. Application access. It's the starting point for accessing various company applications integrated with Okta. Identity provider. The domain acts as an identity provider for SSO-enabled applications. Administration. IT administrators use this domain to manage users, groups, and application integrations. API access. Developers can use the Okta domain to make API calls for integrating Okta services into custom applications. The Okta domain is crucial for maintaining a centralized authentication system and streamlining access to various corporate resources and applications. Would you like me to elaborate on any specific aspect of Okta domains? Copy. Retry.
Kroner.
Give me a real-world example. Edit. Certainly. Let's consider a real-world example using a fictional company called Techinnovate Solutions. Techinnovate Solutions is a mid-sized software company with 500 employees. They decide to implement Okta to manage access to their various cloud applications and internal tools. Here's how they might use their Okta domain. Domain setup. Techinnovate Solutions sets up their Okta domain as https://techinnovate.oktia.com. Employee login. When Sarah, a software developer at Techinnovate, starts her workday, she navigates to https://techinnovate.oktia.com and logs in with her credentials. Application access. After logging in, Sarah sees a dashboard with icons for all the applications she has access to, such as Jira for project management, GitHub for code repositories, Slack for communication, Salesforce for customer data, Google Workspace for email and documents. Single sign-on. When Sarah clicks on the Jira icon, she's automatically logged in without having to enter her credentials again, thanks to Okta's SSO capability. New application integration. Techinnovate's IT team decides to add Zoom for video conferencing. They integrate it with their Okta account, and it appears on the dashboard for authorized employees without requiring separate account creation. Multi-factor authentication. For added security, Techinnovate enables MFA. Now, when logging into https://techinnovate.oktia.com, Sarah needs to enter a code from her Authenticator app in addition to her password. User management. When a new employee, John, joins the marketing team, the HR department uses the Okta admin panel at https://techinnovate-admin.oktia.com to create his account and assign appropriate application access based on his role. API usage. Techinnovate's development team creates a custom HR application. They use the Okta domain in their API calls to authenticate users and retrieve user information securely. This example illustrates how an Okta domain serves as a central hub for user authentication application access, and identity management in a real-world business scenario.
So as we can see here, this is a very, very good answer. How is the Okta domain working? What is the idea of Okta? Okay, so we can see very, very simple. As also we can see that the Purple Knight utility will scan for security concerning the Okta domain. Okay, if there is a problem concerning or there is security issues concerning the Okta domain. Okay, so a couple of things here. So we have the requirements and we know how or what we need to run the program or to run the utility, but there is a couple of things we need to focus on if we have certain situations. For example, if you have an account that has a fine-grained password policy applied, what is a fine-grained password policy? For example, if you have the default password policy in your domain, for example, the user should have, for example, a password not less than 7 characters. This is the default password policy, but this is for the normal accounts. If you have a special password policy for certain accounts, for example, the IT accounts, you require the IT accounts to have their password more than 7 characters, maybe 12 characters. This is called the fine-grained password policy. If you have accounts that have a special password policy that is different than the default password policy of your domain, then you need to give the utility access to a certain container in the Active Directory. So here is saying that the container is password setting container, system under system container. You need to give the utility or the Purple Knight user the permission, I think, for read on this container. So if you have, again, if you have uh, a fine-grained password policy applied to certain accounts, you need to give the Purple Knight user grant read permission to access this object, the password setting container object, under system in the Active Directory. Okay, so it can run something called or a test for seeing if there is weak password policy. Okay, so if you don't have a fine-grained password policy, this step is not needed. Okay, and he's saying here by default only enterprise and domain admins are granted access to this container. To run this indicator or to run this test, which will test for weak password policies against fine-grained password accounts, okay, or accounts with fine-grained passwords policy, you need to give the Purple Knight user read permission to all or this object and all of the descendants objects. Okay, so you need to take care. Actually, in my domain, I don't have something like this. I have a testing lab, so I don't have fine-grained password policy applied. So this is one thing also you need to focus on. And actually, concerning the utility itself, it runs smoothly. Okay, only one issue I have encountered, but I didn't do anything actually. The utility runs without any additional setup, except for these custom situations. If you have these situations in your domain, okay. So now again, another customed situation. If you need to run the test for in order to run the unsecured DNS configuration, though this is a test to check the DNS configuration if it is secured or not. You need also, if you need to run this test, you need to give the Purple Knight user read permission to certain containers in the Active Directory. I think one of them is the forest DNS zone and the domain DNS zone. You need to have these two Active Directory partitions. Okay, you need to give the Purple Knight user read permission to these two Active Directory database partitions. Okay, so you need to do that. Why is that? Because I think here he is talking about he need to run a certain test. This test will not run unless the user have access to these two Active Directory partitions. Okay, and the Purple Knight user should have the read permission. Okay, so this is one thing also. But actually I didn't do this, and actually it runs smoothly. We will see when we run the report if we need to do additional configuration. Okay, but actually I didn't do anything. Okay, so if you continue working, now he is talking about the steps uh, to set up, or the things you need to do before running the utility against the Azure tenant or against the Azure cloud. You need to do a couple of steps. I think you need to integrate it with the, or to do a couple steps to allow it to run on the Azure cloud. Okay, these are the steps. You can go with it uh, step by step. It's very easy. And now we can go to the step of installing the utility itself. You need to make sure that you have the PowerShell scripts execution policy to be to run remote signed scripts. So if you run this utility will run a couple of tests that will use PowerShell to execute, or the tests will run PowerShell scripts uh, to give you the result, or to scan and get you the results concerning your Active Directory security status. So the Purple Knight uses the PowerShell as its main tool to run the tests. Okay, so we need to make sure that your operating system is not blocking the execution of PowerShell scripts. You need to make sure that the let's see, the policy for executing the PowerShell scripts, it is to run remote signed PowerShell scripts. We will see, I will show you all how we can do that. This is a very simple step to do. First of all, if you have already the folder unzipped, and when you run the utility and gives you an error or something, you can simply right click the folder, okay, or the zipped folder. If after unzip it, you can right click properties, and in the general tab tell him unblock. So because any file that is downloaded from the internet, you will not be able to run it unless you uncheck the security section. Let me show you all what I mean by that. If I go to the folder like this one, so this is the folder itself. Right click and properties, and then if you go to the security, I think no, general. Okay, you will see here one thing, if it is downloaded from the internet, something called block execution. So so something, it will block the execution of the file. So you need to uncheck this option. Actually, I didn't find this thing when I was working in my virtual environment. I didn't find this option anyway, so we will continue. I will show you all what I have done. So here we need to make the PowerShell execution policy to run remote signed PowerShell scripts. Unrestricted, it will run all of the PowerShell. Unrestricted, I think it will run all of the PowerShell scripts. Bypass, it will bypass all of them, but temporarily. If you close the PowerShell session, it will again go to blocking the PowerShell execution. Let's see, first of all, we need to know our execution policy to see if we have which one of them is applied. Let me see how is our PowerShell execution policy. So as we can see here, ensure that your PowerShell execution policy is not blocking scripting from running on your machine. Let's see if we copy this one and go to my primary domain controller. First of all, I need to get the utility itself. I have already in a shared folder between my host, my laptop, and my guest, which is the virtual machine. This is the VMware hypervisor platform. So here we can see the Purple Knight. Here I have already unzipped the file. Okay, copy. And then we can go and paste. It will take a little bit of time. And then we can open a Windows terminal and see what is the execution policy for our PowerShell scripts, if it is allowed or not. Okay, so we need to make sure that our PowerShell execution policy is set to remote signed PowerShell scripts, or to run remote signed PowerShell scripts. Okay, now this is the Purple Knight. We will open it and then we will wait. I think we can pause this real quickly so we can go there. Okay, we open the terminal. Here is the exe file. So now we can take the command get execution list. Okay, to check your current execution policy, we will get this command. Okay, actually it is not running perfectly, so I will type it manually by myself. Get dash execution, okay, policy, and minus list, actually not list, minus list. Okay, we will put minus list. So now, as we can see here, if we go and see the result itself, let's see here, just wait for a moment. Actually, I am suffering some hardware issues because I don't have a lot of RAM, so this is making the performance of the virtual machine a little bit uh, slow. We can see here we need to set the execution policy of the PowerShell scripts for the current user to be to run remote signed PowerShell scripts. So this should be uh, uh, the thing, because if we don't do that, our Purple Knight utility will not be installed. Or I think the tests will not run because it depends upon PowerShell scripting. Okay, so now if we go and put this one, so we go there, so let me see here one thing here. He's saying that the machine policy, okay, now it runs remote signed PowerShell scripts, so we can run as for the whole machine. Okay, user policy not defined, so if it's for the user we don't have any policy defined, or PowerShell scripting policy defined. Process current user not defined, so we need to make sure the current user to have the PowerShell scripting policy to be remote signed, even though it is for the whole machine. So I think this step is not needed, but you need to make sure that the current user have the remote signed in policy assigned to him. Okay, a local machine bypass, so we have the machines we can run the PowerShell scripts normally. Anyway, so we'll make the current user, or to set the execution PowerShell policy for the user to be remote signed. So now we can go and install the utility. Actually, the utility setup is very simple. Actually, uh, very straightforward. You will choose the kind of tests you need to run. If it is for on-premise tests or Azure tests or Okta domain tests. Just wait for a moment. I will see, or you will see what tests should we run. We will run only the on-premise tests, Active Directory on-premise tests. Now, as you can see, very simple. One thing here we can see that I cannot see the end of the accept license agreement window. As we can see here, even though I try to get the full screen view, but still I cannot get to the end of the window itself. So I try to get the full screen, and this resolution it's more than 1024 by 768 pixel. It's more than that. If you try to get the full screen view, let me show you all what I mean by that. If you try to get the full screen view, still I cannot see the icons to pass this window. Okay, so let me show you all what will happen if I try to get the full screen preview. So here let's go further like that. Okay, so let's go further. Here I'm trying to refer again to the minimum display resolution. Maybe this is the problem. Let's go further back. Okay, I try to run it. Let me see. I'll try to run the full screen. First of all, I try to change the display setting. Okay, first of all, just to make sure that it was an issue of the display itself. So I try to decrease it a little bit, even though it says it's fine, but it need to be more than 1024 by 768. Okay, but I change it to the resolution it prefers. Then I try to see, even still I cannot get to the bottom of this uh, uh, window. There is no maximize icon, so I try to see the full screen. Okay, preview, but still I cannot even try. I cannot reach the bottom of. So here we can see this is the full screen, even though still I cannot reach the end of this window. So what I have done, I have already hide my taskbar. So by hiding it, I can finally reach the icon of accepting the license agreement. Okay, and this is actually how I solved the problem. I think maybe this in a real world environment, this maybe we will not see something like that. Anyway, in a virtual environment, I have encountered this problem. So let's pass this real quickly and show you all what I have done. I go to the taskbar setting. This is how I solved the problem. Taskbar setting, and then ask it to hide or auto hide the toolbar or the taskbar. So we can go down and get to the taskbar behavior. Okay, we can see automatically hide the taskbar. Okay, now we can see that the next icon appeared for me. If now we open that, now we can see that I can see the next icon, so I can see the whole window, okay, in front of me. So now we can now choose here to the next step is to choose the environment. It's an Okta or Azure Active Directory or Active Directory on premise. This is the Active Directory on premise. We will choose this one. Okay, and then it will select the forests. We have only one forest, which is this one. We will select it. If there is multiple forests, you can choose, and then we can choose the domain. This is the forest, only one forest with one domain. So now we can go and next. Then we can choose the other step is the indicators or the tests that we need to run. Okay, we will see there is a couple of things we need to take note before choosing all of the tests. We need to focus on especially two kind of tests. You need to disable it if you have a large Active Directory environment. We will see, and I will show you all what are these two tests to make sure if you have a large environment not to run these two tests during the production time. You can run it, for example, during the maintenance window or during the non-working hours. First of all, we don't have an hybrid solution. I have only an on-premise solution. And let's see what are the tests we need to make sure that I think it is related to the account security. There is a couple of tests in the account security. You need to make sure that they do not run. So for example, here, let me refer to something here. So these are the tests, but you need to make sure here the PDF says, let me go to this point actually, which is another recommendation. If we go there, okay, let's go further. Here we go. This is the applications, okay, and the installation. Let me see. Here is the installation. Then we go to the. Okay, here is focusing upon two things here. If you are interested, here is saying that there is a couple of tests. If you have a large enterprise environment, you need to consider the following. First, to choose the domain, and then you need to disable a couple of tests. If you need interested in a quick glance at your Active Directory security posture, it's recommended that you exclude the following security indicators or the following security tests. Account security, this is one of the tests, or this is a group of tests. You need to enable users that are inactive, and AD infrastructure security tests, the test called zero login vulnerability. This is executed by default, so we don't need to worry about. The other thing is to enable users that are inactive. This will take a lot of scanning. Okay, it will take a lot of time. So if you have a large environment, this will make the test run in a long time. I prefer to run the test even if it is simple to run or takes a lot of processing or hardware resources. You need to run this test during the non-peak hours or during the maintenance window or during the non-working hours. So we need to disable these two if you need to get a quick glance. If you need to get a detailed report, you will take some time because these tests takes a lot of time to run. Okay, what is the zero login vulnerability? Actually, I didn't know what is the zero login vulnerability. So one thing also, I asked the AI tools, what is the zero login vulnerability? This is one of the tests. It will check if you have the zero login vulnerability in your domain. What is the zero login vulnerability? This is one of the things actually that I asked the AI tools. What is zero login vulnerability? So let's see what is the zero login vulnerability. Now we can go and see the answer here.
How to add a new custom application.
Sorry, let's see here, or let's read all of this one.
The Zeralagon vulnerability, identified as CV 2020-1472, is a critical security flaw in Microsoft's NetLagon Remote Protocol, MSNRPC, that allows attackers to gain unauthorized access to Windows domain controllers. This vulnerability stems from a cryptographic weakness where the initialization vector, 4, used in the authentication process is always set to 0. This flaw enables an attacker to bypass authentication, potentially granting them administrative access to the domain controller and the entire network. Key features of the Zeralagon vulnerability. Severity. The vulnerability has a CVSS score of 10.0, indicating its critical nature. Exploitation. Attackers can exploit this vulnerability without needing prior authentication. They can establish a connection to a domain controller and change its password to a value of their choosing, including an empty password. Attack method. To exploit Zeralagon, an attacker needs network access to the domain controller. Once they gain access, they can reset passwords for service accounts, leading to full control over the network. Potential impact. Successful exploitation can result in full administrative control over the domain, denial of service, DOS attacks, the ability to exfiltrate sensitive data or deploy ransomware. Real-world implications. The Zeralagon vulnerability poses a significant risk to organizations, especially those that have not applied the necessary patches released by Microsoft. The vulnerability was publicly disclosed in September 2020, and within a short period, proof of concept, POC, exploit code was made available, prompting concerns about imminent attacks. Mitigation efforts. Patching. Microsoft released patches in August 2020 to address the vulnerability, and organizations are urged to apply these updates promptly to their domain controllers. Monitoring. Organizations should implement monitoring solutions to detect abnormal behavior that may indicate an attempted exploit of the Zeralagon vulnerability. Conclusion. Zeralagon exemplifies the critical need for robust vulnerability management and prompt patching strategies within organizations. Given its ease of exploitation and potential for severe consequences, it is essential for IT teams to remain vigilant and proactive in securing their environments against such vulnerabilities. Share. Rewrite.
So this is the answer. What is the zero login vulnerability? Maybe it's a little bit technical terms, but if you ask Claude to explain what is the zero login vulnerability and give us also an example how we can do that, and a couple of things actually, I was very curious how this vulnerability is working. How does it work actually? So let's see here also the answer of Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Now we can go do this and tell it to read from this section.
Zeralagon is a critical security vulnerability that was discovered in 2020. It affects Windows Server systems, specifically the Netlogon remote protocol. Here's a breakdown of the key points. Nature of the vulnerability. Zeralagon is a cryptographic flaw in the Windows Netlogon authentication process. Official designation. It's formally known as CV 2020-1472. Severity. The vulnerability is rated as critical with a CVSS score of 10.0, the highest possible. Affected systems. Windows Server 2008 R2 and newer versions are vulnerable if not patched. Potential impact. An attacker can exploit this vulnerability to gain domain administrator access, completely take over a Windows domain, bypass authentication, change computer passwords. How it works. The flaw allows an attacker to set the computer password of the domain controller account to a known value, essentially zeroing out the password, hence the name Zeralagon. Exploitation. It can be exploited without any user credentials, making it particularly dangerous. Mitigation. Microsoft released patches to address this vulnerability. Organizations were strongly advised to apply these updates as soon as possible. Detection. Various security tools and scripts were developed to detect attempts to exploit this vulnerability. Significance. Zeralagon was considered one of the most severe Windows vulnerabilities in recent years due to its potential for complete network compromise. The discovery of Zeralagon highlighted the importance of prompt patching and continuous security monitoring in enterprise environments. It also sparked discussions about the security of legacy protocols in modern networks. Copy. Retry.
Kroner.
Explain this in simple terms how it works. The flaw allows an attacker to set the computer password of the domain controller account to a known value, essentially zeroing out the password, hence the name Zeralagon. Edit. Certainly. Let me break this down into simpler terms. Think of a domain controller as the main security guard for a large office building. This guard has a special key, password, that can open every door in the building. The Zeralagon vulnerability is like finding out that there's a flaw in how the guard's key is made. This flaw allows anyone to create a blank key, a key with no specific cuts or shape that somehow works just like the guard's master key. In technical terms, the domain controller is the main computer that controls access to everything on a company's network. Its password is supposed to be a complex, secret code that only it knows. The flaw is a mistake in the way Windows handles the login process for this important computer. Zeroing out the password means an attacker can trick the system into accepting a very simple, known password, essentially a blank or zero password, instead of the complex, secret one. So, just like how a blank key shouldn't be able to open every door in a building, a blank or simple password shouldn't work for such an important computer. But because of this flaw, it does. This is why it's called Zerologon. An attacker can log on, gain access.
Let's continue, guys. Sorry, we will continue the zero login. What is the zero login actually? Because actually I was curious to know how zeroing the computer account or the domain computer account, how the password when it is set to zero, how this will affect the domain. Let's see or continue the answer.
Blank or simple password. Copy. Retry.
Kroner.
Why zeroing the password of the computer account of the domain controller lead to severe consequences? Edit. Zeroing the password of the computer account of the domain controller leads to severe consequences because of the critical role a domain controller plays in a Windows network environment. Let me break this down. Domain controller's role. The domain controller is essentially the brain of a Windows network. It manages authentication, stores user account information, and controls access to network resources. Privileged access. By design, the domain controller has the highest level of privileges within the network. Authentication hub. All authentication requests in the domain go through the domain controller. Compromise implications. When an attacker can set the domain controller's computer account password to a known value, complete access. They effectively have the keys to the kingdom, able to access any resource in the domain. B. Impersonation. They can impersonate the domain controller itself. C. Credential theft. They can potentially extract all user credentials stored on the domain controller. D. Policy manipulation. They can modify security policies, group memberships, and access rights across the entire domain. E. Persistence. They can create backdoors or new admin accounts to maintain long-term access. F. Data breach. They can access, modify, or exfiltrate sensitive data from any system in the domain. Cascading effect. In many organizations, compromising one domain can lead to compromising connected domains or even the entire forest, a collection of domains. Stealth. Because the attacker is using legitimate, high-privilege credentials, their activities may not trigger typical security alerts. Recovery difficulty. Recovering from such a compromise is extremely challenging, often requiring a complete rebuild of the domain infrastructure to ensure no backdoors remain. In essence, zeroing the domain controller's password is akin to giving an attacker the master key to every lock in a large organization. It undermines the entire security structure of the network, potentially exposing all systems and data to unauthorized access and manipulation.
So as you can see, this is a very, very dangerous vulnerability, and it takes a lot of scanning time. Okay, so he's saying if you have a large environment, you need to make sure these two tests are not selected and it is excluded by default. But if it is there, then you need to rectify, and as we can see, rectify this vulnerability. As we can see here, this is done by patching, okay, Microsoft Windows updates. And actually you need to, sometimes, as Claude is saying, you need maybe to rebuild the whole network, but I think you can just rectify the vulnerability by applying the patches of Microsoft. And this was 2020. I think now it is already rectified in the newer versions of the Windows Server operating system. So let's continue and see. Now I have already run all of the tests. Okay. Now it didn't take a lot of time. Actually, it runs 106 tests. I have already passed 96 tests. and I think fail L13 maybe, or or 11. You can see it is categorized to different categories. Some tests concerning Active Directory delegation, some tests concerning the account security, some of them are concerning the Active Directory infrastructure security, group policy security, corpus security. As you can see here, all of these are already run. And now I can go and see the report. Okay, so now I see that I have 91. This is my score. Okay, I have 11 findings from 106 tests. So you will see, or in the upcoming videos I will discuss these findings, the failed tests and the successful tests, so we can take a full advantage of this report to discuss the different security aspects concerning the Active Directory. If we know how the Active Directory works, then we can know how the attacker will think. So actually we will see the 11 findings, we will see how we can rectify them, and we will discuss the successful points. So let me show you all. The upcoming video will begin talking about the first couple of tests, which is AD delegation. We see that I have only one indicator. I have passed this group of tests. I have 99% successful, and I have only one failed. And we will discuss in the upcoming video inheritance enabled on admin SD holder object. What is the admin SD holder object? What is its function? Why we need to ensure it doesn't inherit any permissions from upper folders or upper OUs or upper objects in the Active Directory. We will stop at this point and we will continue discussing the whole report in the upcoming videos. Hope this video informed of you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.